Female Finance Collective, where we encourage women to have open and honest conversations about all things money. Today, we're going to walk you through the financial life of a foundation builder, and we're going to tell you the story of Faith. Faith isn't a real person, but she represents women who are working to build a strong foundation of financial literacy. Our conversation is going to be a little bit like a case study. We're going to talk about where Faith is and suggestions that we have for what steps she might want to take next. Even if you can't relate to all of the elements of Faith's life and where she is, I think we're all sure that you're going to be able to relate to some piece of her life and where she is as a foundation builder. And so maybe while we're talking, you can think about things you might suggest for Faith, or if that was you in that situation, what you might do next. So I'm going to start by reading this little story about Faith, and then we'll get started sharing things that we think might be great next steps for her. Faith is 35. She has a partner, and they've been together for a few years, but he usually handles all the money. When she was single, Faith wasn't great at budgeting, didn't really save or invest, and honestly didn't think that much about money. She wasn't a crazy spender, so while she did have a little bit of debt, she wasn't overwhelmed by the payments, and she was able to stay on top of her bills without too much trouble. But she didn't have any real savings, and her retirement account was pretty small because when she started at her company, she was so overwhelmed with all of the new hire paperwork and nervous about her new role that she didn't make time to look over the retirement plan paperwork. I'm sure many of us can relate to that. You get a new job is overwhelming anyway, right?
Yep.
So she just put a really low percentage contribution and chose the first fund on the list and turned it in. Faith has recently realized that she should start thinking a little bit more about money. Since she didn't know much about it, she was happy to have her partner take over. But after some friends were talking about their investments at brunch, she decided she needed to take a more active role. Faith's partner isn't super into finances, but he does have a good understanding of the basics and is what we think of as a plan builder. He's happy to partner up with Faith on the finances, and she's ready to get started. So let's go into kind of the next steps. Now that she's ready to dive in and her partner is ready to have a partner, it sounds like he doesn't love finances, so he would love to have someone to work on with him. What do we think would be a good first step? Marilee, do you have an idea of what you would suggest she do first if you were coaching her?
I do. I wanted to say one thing before I get started, and that is I love that her and her friends were having these conversations about money. And if you have friends in your life that you love and enjoy spending time with, bringing up some money topics is a great way to help them, but also to help yourself, because then you have a motivation group that can really boost your success with your finances and just keep you on track and on task. So I just wanted to mention that as the starter. And where I would suggest clients that I work with start when they come to me in this kind of situation is to get to know your spending. And the easiest place to start is to look at expenses that are the same every month or around the same, that are fixed. It's a commitment that you have. So those are things like your rent, your mortgage, different subscriptions, utilities, your cell phone, childcare. It can be a number of those things, but you are paying those no matter what. And they're similar each month. And just have a look at that inventory and see if there's any changes that you can make. I find subscriptions can be an easy one. It's easy to decide whether you're using something or you're not. And most subscriptions will let you put a pause on them and offer you the same rate should you wish to rejoin. We've been doing this ourselves. I'm finding things like Netflix, I'm just not watching as much. So we're making a decision on that. And it seems like a small thing, but the small things they do add up. And then the next thing is, if you can, take a little bit of a look back. So look back a month or two and see where your money has been going. Get an accurate number for things like food, entertainment. If you haven't done this in a while, it will be shocking because we're all used to what we were paying for food maybe 3 or 4 years ago. It has gone up a lot. So just getting an idea of where your money has been going, and understanding where you're spending and about how much it is each month. So that would be the first step I would suggest.
I completely agree, Marilee. I love that you talked about the friends and talking about money, because that's our mission here with this podcast, right? Is to have those open and honest conversations. And that was really my beginnings of becoming financially literate as well. Joined a little group that people that were a couple steps ahead of me or a couple steps behind me. And we met. I don't even remember how often we met, maybe once a month, maybe every other week. But it became fun because I had people to do this with, and I had people to ask questions with, and I had opportunities to see, what they were thinking about money. And so I think that is absolutely huge. I love that Faith has already done that, and that we're talking about trying to do that more. Yeah, and then absolutely like understanding where your money's going, how much is coming in, how much is going out, right? And then from there, creating a balanced budget, really starting to think, how much money do I want going to what? And then you can start to set some goals from there, right? Some short-term goals. Thinking back to Faith wants to work with her partner on investments, right? And she just kind of chose something from the beginning. And now if she knows how much she's spending, she's creating a budget that allows her to invest a certain amount of money, she can really start making those short-term goals for month to month to think about what percentage of money she might want to put into that investment account.
All of this. So it's so good. Like I feel like I want to take notes, but you know what I mean? It's like that thing like, oh yeah, am I already doing all these things? So I think that we've talked about getting familiar with the spending, and I'm going to say like Faith but also them together, right? Because I love that there's a partnership in here. Not everybody has that, but if you do, working together I think makes it so much easier. And also if you can get on the same page about your spending, about your budget, especially if your money is shared. It is much easier if you talk about it together instead of one person working in isolation, whether it's Faith or her partner working in isolation, and then your stuff doesn't like balance out together, right? Your focus is different. And like you said, Sybil, setting goals, if your goals are totally different, then that's going to impact your spending habits and all of that. So if you are working on this level, this foundation level with someone else, it's great to do that together and kind of see if you can agree on some of those budgeting aspects, those goal setting things. And then I think that kind of lends itself into also starting to save. So saving for retirement, like you said, learn a little bit about that retirement plan, choose a fund that makes sense. Think about the percentage that you would be comfortable contributing if your company offers a retirement plan, how much you're comfortable contributing. Do that math. There are all kinds of online calculators and things that you can use where you can punch in your income and then your percentage, and it'll like do the math for you and tell you like how much it'll impact your take-home pay. So you can work on those types of things together, and then also start putting away like an emergency savings fund. That's one of those things I think that is key for foundation builders. Before I was on the foundation, I would like try to put money in savings, and then I was constantly taking it back out because I was like, oh, that $50 from last month, I really needed this month to like make ends meet. And I didn't really commit to that because I think I knew it was important, but I hadn't really like crossed over the line of like that decision. We've talked about that decision before where like your mindset shifts and you're like, all right, it's time. Sounds like Faith has already crossed that decision line. And so starting to put some money away in an emergency fund, I think would be great if the two of them could commit to saving a little bit of money every month and thinking about an amount that would be comfortable for them to have saved. Would also be a great next step. And then I think that kind of bumps into like investing in their future. So they've got that retirement going, which is obviously future, and they've got an emergency fund going. So then that, how do we want to move forward into our future? What are the goals of how much we want to save? Do we have anything specific we're saving for? Are we saving for a house? Do we need new cars? Like all of those types of things they can start to think about. I think as a foundation builder, you start to kind of think about, okay, what are my next steps, instead of just living from like moment to moment or paycheck to paycheck. Sybil and I were talking about this statistic the other day that I think it's like 70% of people in the United States are living paycheck to paycheck. And if you're at this foundation level, my goal for you, even if it's not your goal for yourself, my goal for you is to be thinking about how you can move on from that so that you aren't relying on that next paycheck to kind of keep things moving. And so that to me would be a great next step for them to start thinking about. What I know, I feel like I just said 17 things in a row. That's why I was like, needed to take notes. Marilee, can you break down what I said?
I can. I was thinking about what you said around breaking out of that paycheck to paycheck, and that is a great suggestion. And to start with, it can be just trying to set aside $100 and then maybe getting to 1,000, and then maybe just being ahead one paycheck. Just doing that gives you so much more peace of mind, and you're seeing that you're having success with these steps that you've committed to. And at this phase, at the foundation level, there might be probably the majority of people will have debt, and paying off that debt and doing it faster becomes a big priority. And that's another piece that you might want to spend some time on, doing some calculations on how you can pay debt off faster. So if you cut a subscription that's $30, put that away on your debt payment. And it's amazing how quickly you can make progress on that. So definitely that's another great step. The other thing I wanted to mention is around age. There is no specific age of someone that's a foundation builder. You can find yourself being in your 60s. Maybe your spouse has passed away, or you're deciding to move to a different country, and you're going to revisit this foundation again. And there's nothing wrong with that. This can happen, if you decide to become self-employed, like you're going back to these foundational steps over and over again within your life. And for those retirement savings, if you do have a work plan, it is really easy for those to be at the bottom of your priority list. So just having a look when you get those statements by email or mail, just have a look at them. And if you don't understand what your options are, then call the number or have a look at the website and just see what is available to you. What is the percentage match that you get, how much you are contributing, and if you can increase it. Because often these work plans come with perks and benefits and matching that are hard to do on your own. So it's a great, easier place to start when it comes to investing, because a lot of the options that you have for investing are predefined. So you're not doing a lot of legwork to figure out what to do. The other thing that happens in the foundation stage is you might notice you're starting to get more curious about learning and improving your financial literacy. So just keep looking for things to read about, keep asking questions to other people. And definitely, if you're meeting with any type of financial professional, ask them questions. And it's also at this phase that you might want to think about making the investment to get support. So things like hiring a money coach to just have a look at your finances and give you some insights, that can be a great way. And what we're thinking of doing on this podcast is profiling real people. And if that's something that would be interesting for you to have done, then we welcome you to get in touch with us. We can, give some insights. A lot of people like to know what other people spend in certain categories, so we can really geek out on the numbers and, figure out ways to just build a little more fun and joy into your life and have the finances to support those decisions.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And Faith has made the decision to do something, which is the biggest, best decision that we all need to make. And it's a hard decision. So congratulations to Faith on that. And then, what we've been talking about in this episode is there's more decisions to make. And so I would say try to not get stuck. making decisions or being overwhelmed that you have so many decisions. How much do I put into my investment? How much do I put into my emergency savings? How much debt do I pay off, right? Those are three big, huge questions I just thought of. And what I would say to that, and I think all of us would agree here, is make a plan, set some goals, and get started, right? And start doing it and track it and see how it's going, and then reflect and make adjustments, right? But the thing that's going to hold you back the most is not making the next decision and not taking action. There's no wrong decisions. Taking action is what's going to move you forward, because even if you make a mistake, we have a whole episode about our money mistakes on this podcast. Even if you make mistakes, it's still learning forward, right? We can reframe that as learning forward, and then you're going to make a different decision. But if you just stay and you don't put any money into an emergency savings, and you're not investing in that work retirement account, and you're not paying off that debt, you're not making progress. You're not taking action, and your financial situation won't get better. And I would say too, like, learning, I love to learn. I think you probably all know that about me now. But learning has a place, and taking action and making decisions has a place, right? If you're finding I'm just consuming all the time, I'm listening to money podcasts now, I'm, learning, but I'm not taking action now, do some deep reflection, and as Jen says, have hard conversations with yourself, and make those decisions to start taking action. Okay, I'm going to start paying off X amount of my debt every month. I'm going to budget so I can do that. Okay, I'm going to pay off a little debt, put a little bit in emergency savings, and put a little bit in investment. There's no right or wrong. You need to make those personal decisions for yourself, and we would all make different decisions. But the fact is, to make a decision and then take action on it is really the most important thing that Faith can do right now, and that all of us can do. Marilee, like you said, you go back to this phase. Like when COVID happened, I realized that I needed a bigger emergency savings fund, right? Our short-term rental shut down, and all of a sudden it wasn't paying for itself. So these foundational steps are so crucial, because we will come back to them over and over again. We're always reevaluating our debt, our investments, our, emergency savings. They're called foundation. We call this foundation builders for a reason, because it is absolutely the cement of your house, right? It's the foundation of your house. It's what everything else is built on. And we have the Female Finance Collective now has a community and classroom where we're working on these exact things with women. So if you want to join us over in school, just Google Female Finance Collective, and we can put the link down below too. SKOOL, and you'll find us. But we would love to have you join us there. We're having these kinds of conversations. We're teaching basic financial literacy skills there, because these are things we're just constantly need for our entire life. It is truly like a lifelong journey, right? And so these are such crucial steps for us all to learn and continue talking and thinking about.
Right. So much to learn. And that is the part that I think you really touched on. That it can get overwhelming because there's so much, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all three of us have talked about learning and figuring things out and all of that. And so if you're like, whoa, where do I start? Here are some things I would say, tips. Feel free to interject, ladies, if you have other ideas. I would, if you're a digital person, just open up like a document, a Google Doc or a Word document where you're just going to take notes. And every time you hear a term you don't know what it means, or you see an article that seems interesting, you can paste the link or type the term and just keep notes. And if you're a paper and pencil person, I seem to operate in both methods. I have like notebooks all over the place and also a million documents. So whatever works for you. But you could have a notebook too, where you just write down things you hear. Oh, somebody at brunch mentioned that. I don't know what that is. I'm going to write that down and just take a list. Keep a list of the things you'd like to learn about and things that you are learning about. And then as you feel comfortable, as you have time to sit down and kind of figure out what those things are, do that. But don't feel like you have to learn this all at once. You just don't. You just don't. It would be really overwhelming. Anytime I try to figure out a whole bunch of financial stuff all at the same time, I end up mixing up what the things are. What does this go? Oh, wait, that's not the same as that. Oh, no, those things are different. So just one at a time, and feel confident and comfortable learning like what one thing is, and then figuring out how that applies or doesn't apply to you, and then move on to the next one. Listening to podcasts, maybe reading a book that had, like, look for a book that has really good reviews and then read the comments. If the comments are like, I loved that this person just told me exactly what to do, and you're like, that's not what I'm looking for, don't read that book. If you're like, I love how this person shared their story and I could learn from that, and that resonates with you, then maybe that's a good option. So just kind of do a little research. Look for maybe blogs. I know there are some great blogs where women and men share kind of how they work through their money story, and just start really thinking about what resonates with you, what you want to know, and like seeking out specific information. I think that was my biggest mistake. One of my biggest mistakes when I was like getting to this foundational level is there was a ton of stuff I didn't know, but I was too intimidated to like learn it. But if I would have just like said, okay, I heard someone talk about an IRA. I don't know what that is, but I think it's money. So I'm going to Google. I didn't do that. I was just like, I'm bad with money. I'll never understand, right? Don't be me. Just, and take it slow, but also learn, right? Don't just put it all off and be like, well, someday I'll figure it out. Someday is right now. Someday is right now. And you can just learn one little thing at a time. Take one small action, like Mary Lee was saying. Put $100 in your savings account and then do a little celebration that you got that going, and then set your next goal for 1,000. I think that's really the biggest thing here, is to just keep moving forward, learning little bits at a time, taking little actions. If you want to take a major action, go for it. But not all of us are financially able to do that, or even like, I'll say emotionally ready for that, right? Because it feels too scary. So don't feel like your foundation has to get built in a day. It doesn't. And like Sybil said, we're all still going back. If you are from a place like me in Dallas, where the ground is constantly moving and your foundation is cracking and breaking, and people are always having to have their houses foundationed, and you know that this isn't something you can just do once and move on. Your foundation needs maintenance, and it needs work, and it needs upkeep. And the same is true for your money foundation as well. What I know, you ladies have a couple more things we should add. I know I haven't said it all. We haven't said it all.
Jen, your house analogy related to where you live is perfect. I wanted to mention just a couple more things. And one is, at the foundation level, the speed that you're going at can feel extremely slow. And it's important to recognize that, be patient with yourself. Money loves that kind of constant attention and action. So the speed will improve over time, and the progress on paying debt or building savings will accelerate down the road. So just keep up with those great habits that you're putting into place. And when you listen to our podcast, I would love to have that perspective of taking action on something. So commit to something that you will take action on with your finances. So that could be starting with figuring out your debt inventory. What do you actually owe? And making a date that you'll have that list done by. So you choose an action that you're committed to and set a time frame to accomplish that action. And doing that over and over again will get you so far with your money goals and with your money success. So we're going to wrap up this episode. I hope you enjoyed hearing about our fictional case story of Faith. And we're going to be sharing some more case stories, both fictional and real people. So that will be super exciting. Thank you for listening. Please be sure to like and follow our podcast. You can find us on Instagram and on YouTube at Female Finance Collective. And we'd love to hear from you. So if you have a question or a topic suggestion, please reach out, and we'll see you next week.